Hello and welcome to the Healthified Mother Podcast. I'm your host, Cory, and this is my lovely wife, Kristi. This is episode 12, and we are celebrating Thanksgiving today, and we want to celebrate with you by talking about what we're thankful for and thankfulness and gratitude in general.
Today is also my birthday, and I love to paint, and so I want to paint it's a turkey feather, just something simple, but it just reminds me of being grateful for the simple things in life. And so, yeah, that's what I'm going to be painting today as we talk about gratitude and just ways we can be more grateful, ways to feel gratitude when we're maybe not feeling it, and just some things in general that we're grateful for.
Gratitude. It's one of those things that it makes life better, right? In all aspects, gratitude just makes things better. What moment in this past year have you been the most grateful for, Kristi?
That's a good question.
Doesn't have to be one moment, but what are you most grateful for this last year, I suppose?
So I feel like I've had a lot of ups and downs emotionally, which is new for me. I feel like most of my life I've been pretty steady, and this year there's been a lot more, and that's because I've opened myself up to feel more rather than just move on, hurry along, we don't need to feel this, we don't need to experience this, I should just be grateful, right? And I have allowed myself to express anger and frustration in ways that I never did before, because you're not supposed to be angry. You shouldn't be upset. You shouldn't be frustrated, etc. As Christians, we feel like it's bad to show any kind of negative emotions, and yet in the scriptures all the time we read about God, the wrath of God. His anger was kindled against them, and he wept and he sorrowed, and there's this huge gambit of emotions that we can read about when discussing God and Jesus Christ. And as I realized, it's okay to experience emotions, good, bad, everything in between, so long as we don't get stuck there and dwell on that and let that define us. And so I guess I've just been grateful for all of the good and joyful times in my life that have been highlighted by some of these more difficult emotions and experiences that I've gone through this year. So I'm grateful, for that experience, and to be able to contrast that level of joy with some of the more difficult things that I've experienced. And so that, I guess, would be what I'm most grateful for this year. How about you?
Yes, I'm the most grateful right now for hope. Just through all the ups and downs that we've had this last year, the thing that I'm grateful for is that we have hope, and our hope in Christ is no matter how life works out, things will work out in the end, and that's what I'm the most grateful for is my hope in Christ, my hope for a better tomorrow, and because as you said, it's like we've been doing this, taking this coaching about opening up ourselves to feel what we're like. Yeah, same with you, as you said. Like I've my whole life just most of the time when I feel something, just like try not to feel it, just pretend that everything's all right, because that's kind of at least how I interpreted the gospel. Was yeah, you're not supposed to feel those negative feelings, so just pretend that they're not there, bury it, if you're if so to speak. And so kind of it's been a bit wild emotionally with emotional swings, trying to just experience what the emotions as they come. And it's a bit having had this tight-fisted control of my emotions for my whole life, and to try and let go, it feels uncontrolled chaos sometimes in, in what's going on. So yeah, it's been unpredictable ride sometimes. So, but and the end result, I don't feel like is to find a new level of control, but just a new way of being that is, correct me if I'm wrong, but just like rolls with the punches. If I feel angry, and like doesn't get that observer, as they talk about. Like I can just sit back and be like, yeah, okay, I feel anger, yeah, I feel sadness, and yet not let it uh, swing the observer, the me behind. Because the emotions, what are emotions? They're just sensations of the body, right?
Right. Well, and they're from our thoughts, right? Emotions come from our thoughts. So if our thoughts are thinking something frustrating, angry, whatever, there's going to be an emotion of that. We can change our thoughts and we can recognize, hey, I suddenly feel anger because that man cut me off, and my thought was how rude, right? And so I can change my thought to, hey, you know what? Maybe he's in a hurry to the hospital. I don't know his situation. Um, maybe he's not. Maybe he's just an inconsiderate driver, but I'm not going to let it ruin my day. And okay, and then so I change my thought, and that allows me to change my emotion. But if I'm not conscious of where that emotion came from, because I'm just thinking my thoughts and going through the day without being conscious of what I'm thinking, then I can't really change my emotions and like be okay with, okay, I'm experiencing anger. All right, I'm experiencing, like, I'm just out of control and frustrated and, sad or whatever, and I don't even know why. So being curious and being aware allows me to experience them so much faster than if I just try and stuff them. No, shh, we're not allowed to be angry. No, that's bad, right? I'm like, oh, I'm angry. Okay. And I don't have to act on it, right? Whereas before, because I'm trying to stuff it, it comes out in my actions, in my words, in my actions. So I'm lashing out at people or at myself, or, like, if you've ever been upset and you're like cutting vegetables or something, like, you're more likely to hurt yourself, etc., if you're not being present and conscientious, if you're frustrated and angry and trying to stuff emotions. So yeah, all of that has helped me this past year to just experience it and not react, but to just act. Okay, that's an emotion that I felt. you know that's it, and that's okay. And there's emotions that we feel like are embarrassing. We don't want to feel, like lust or humiliation or resentment or hatred. Like, no, those are really bad, you're not allowed to feel those. Like, you're a really bad person if you feel those emotions, but you're not. You're just a human, and you're experiencing all of those things, which again, the Savior experienced all of those, but they didn't define him. He didn't act on them. Sometimes he acted on his emotions, like compassion, right? And then he acted on that. I'm going to heal this man. Or even anger, like, I'm going to whip these people and chase them out of the temple. And that's okay too. Like, it just is. It's being. But he was able to much more quickly stabilize his emotions than the rest of us, because he practiced that. I'm going to experience rage, I'm going to experience anger, and then let it pass, right? And I think that's where we struggle. Is we don't want to hurt people with our words, with our actions, and so we try and stuff it, but we don't. It's not like I will hurt people. It's inevitable. I'm going to hurt people if I experience these emotions. It doesn't have to be that way. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's that the observer that I mentioned is really a narrator for our own internal dialogue or narrative of our interpretation of the events happening to us, around us, in front of us. And so, yeah, and it is. I think part of what we're here to do is to experience life in its fullness, and that's to experience the full spectrum of the emotions that are there, and even to learn to transmute them. Like you're saying, like, okay, you might be feeling anger, but if the narrator starts telling, stops focusing on the negative impact of that person cutting you off as on yourself, and instead start narrating, like, oh man, praying for that person, like, what if they're going to the hospital? And like, you could start tell whatever story you want, and then start praying for that person, and you could transmute the anger into, like, prayer for their well-being.
Yeah.
It's so, yeah, it's learning to properly guide our narrator.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And what story we want them to be telling.
Instead of control our emotions, we are now seeking to just observe and change our thoughts, which then changes our emotions. And hey, like, that feels better, and it was faster, and we're now aware of why it happened, so we don't have to experience it again and again. So I'm just going to go ahead and start painting this feather.
Let's talk about, like, the most gratitude you've ever felt in your life. So what's one moment when you felt the most intense sense of gratitude? I'll start as you're painting. And this is a recent memory, but it was not this year, but it was, it might have been in the last year, actually. Like, after this, it was probably somewhere around Thanksgiving last year or after. And I was working with a client, and I made a few phone calls. They were having a problem, and I just made a few phone calls on their behalf to save them time. They didn't ask me to, but they were looking for something, and I just had the thought, like, oh, I could find it. Like, they were going to drive around town to these different places to try and find it, and I was like, got off the phone with them, and I was like, I bet I could just call around and find it. So I made a few phone calls, and it wasn't, I think, the second phone call, and I found a place that had the exact thing that he needed, because it was, certain supply stores, and a rare part. Not rare, but like less common part. And I just called him back and I said, don't bother going to wherever you were going. Just head straight here. This place, they have the exact part you need. You can go there, buy it, and go home and get fixed what got broken in his house. And it was like 10 minutes of me making phone calls. And I think it didn't really feel like I wasted any time of mine. He felt gratitude towards me, towards my effort. He was like, he was so thankful, and he said thank you after I got off the phone. I didn't feel his gratitude then, but then he sent me a tip, and it was the most generous tip I'd ever received in my whole entire life. And then I felt his gratitude. Like, whoa, he was that grateful. And he, it's a funny thing, right? Like, he was just as grateful on the phone call, but I didn't. When did I feel it? When I saw this. It was like a text notification of like this money being sent to me, and I was just like, man, I felt gratitude to a degree that was. I was crying. I was just like, holy smokes, wow, that guy was. I felt his gratitude. It was a cool experience. More I remember that experience for the feeling I had more than the money right now as being more about
Right.
part of that internal narrative, like what as to why it was something that I felt is because, right, I guess, money is important to me, and that's why it impacted me more. So it's interesting. You think about how how we're affected by what we give importance to as well in these areas of emotion.
Yeah. I think for me, so I wasn't really planning to share this or talk about this, but I had a miscarriage a few weeks ago, and I was feeling pretty low. There's just a lot of emotions go with that. And I had never had a miscarriage before, and it was completely painless. Like, I was bleeding, but I didn't even know I didn't have cramping or anything, so I didn't know what was going on. I went in to have a ultrasound because it was, a lot of blood for a lot of days, and I'm like, okay, what's going on here? And the ultrasound tech said that it was a very early, like it probably stopped forming, right away. And so I was like not super upset about that, like the loss of a baby. Like, yeah, it was sad thinking, okay, so I'm not actually having a baby in July, and there's those emotions and everything, but it opened up a lot of feelings of like rejection. And I have this like rejection wound that I struggle with. Like, I'm not worried about not being loved. I feel loved, but what I fear is not being liked. And I feel like that's so much worse for me. Like, oh yeah, people love you, but they don't like you. Like, oh yeah, it's my sister, it's my friend, it's, my wife, it's my mom, but I don't really like her. And that feeling, like, it was just kind of overwhelming, and it just sort of overpowered me. And I was feeling super low, like this deep, deep sense of sadness and being unwanted and whatever. And I'm sure that was, had a lot to do with the devil, and like, oh, look, she's vulnerable. Right now is a great time for me to pick at her self-worth and all of that. But as I was experiencing that, I reached out to my sister, and the level of compassion she met me with was deeper and stronger than I've ever seen. And that experience it just made me super grateful because I didn't expect that. I was already feeling a little bit like, not like I was over it, but like I was on the upswing, and I was like, okay, well, I'm doing a lot better. And that's why I was like it's safe, to reach out to my sister, because even the day before I was feeling like, not like my family wouldn't love me, but like I said, just kind of that feeling of like no one likes me, which, yeah, it's like Satan's favorite tool. And I don't know why I didn't recognize it at the time, but that's what I was feeling. And when she expressed how much she appreciates me and the things she notices and loves about me, that was just like, yeah, it was just a lot more than I expected to receive. And it felt amazing, and it was just a lot of gratitude. And like this, a sister that, we've had a lot of history together of, serving each other, helping each other. She experienced a really difficult divorce, and I was able to help her in a lot of ways with her kids, with babysitting, with just being there, etc. And to feel how grateful she was for all of that. Like, she'd expressed it before, but this time, like, I could really feel, like you said, like, she'd said thank you at the time, just like that man said thank you at the time. But when she expressed it this time, as I was going through a hard time, it just felt so much deeper and stronger. So I guess that would be one time I can remember that was overwhelming sense of gratitude.
Yeah. It's a beautiful story. And I mean, I just sit here thinking like we've learned so much in the last year, especially. And I just feel like there's so much more to learn about gratitude. I look forward to it.
Yeah. There is so much that gratitude can do. Like, it seriously strengthens our immune system. And they have done studies where, they take people who, and they measure, their immunity, and then they go through these gratitude exercises and mental exercises where they're expressing and feeling gratitude. And on the other side of it, when they test them again, their immunity is like way stronger, not like a little increase, like vastly improved. And I think that's a wonderful, at least once a year, we can be grateful all the time, and we should be. But at least once a year, we have a holiday set aside for us to really express gratitude, to feel it deeply and experience it. And I think it's placed at a really good time, because we just came from Halloween, candy fest, like not healthy, where a lot of people's immunity is low. And then we're heading into Christmas and all the goodies and the treats. And then New Year's, where a lot of people, drink and booze and all of that. And it's like, this is a really important time for us to boost our immunity. And if we can do that, we can get through these holiday times better, with more happiness, with better health, and better relationships and emotional experiences. Because the holidays can be like just the pits for people who have terrible memories associated with them. And for a lot of people, especially abuse victims, the holidays are the worst, because that's when the abusers, like, you feel like at least on the holidays I should have a break. And the abuser probably because they feel so much guilt and shame, they do their worst deeds on the holidays. Like they, go get drunk and beat their kids. They do whatever, they tell you what a loser and horrible person you are, etc. And so every Christmas, every New Year's, every Thanksgiving, you have these memories and you can't erase them. But what you can do is recognize, like an outside observer, what have I learned from those and what can I teach others and what can I be grateful for in those experiences. Like I can't erase what happened. What happened, but I can change the story that I tell myself about those memories and those events.
Yeah. I mean, I was listening to something the other day, and the speaker was talking about what's more important, what happens to you, or the story you tell yourself about what happened to you. And because the event only happens once, but the story you tell yourself, and depending on how often you choose to tell yourself, you can tell to yourself every day. Like you mentioned the feeling like people don't like you. That's a story you tell yourself, or at some point you began to tell yourself that story, and you're still telling yourself that story to this day. And now you're trying to combat and change that narrative, that story about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And we all have these stories that we tell ourselves about certain aspects of ourselves. Like, I'm shy. That's just a story. Nobody's actually shy. Shy is just a set of behaviors.
Right.
If you think you're shy, then you're gonna adhere to that set of behaviors. But shyness is a way of being, a set of behaviors that you act out. That's really all it comes down to.
Yeah, something you adopted at one point, and now you're like beholden to it. Like I have to fulfill this because I gave myself this label, and now I have to.
And it could be as simple as, someone saw you and like, oh, you must be shy, or parents saying to because I think we have this huge powerful power over our children when they're the way we think about them, even if we don't voice it out loud. Like there's this unconscious connection we have to our children, but it gets emphasized when in front of them, maybe not to them but to others. We say, oh, they're just being shy, oh, they're just being or worse, oh, you're such a brat, stop being such a brat. Like,
Yeah.
And from our childhood, there's just these things, these storylines and narratives about ourselves that get set in place. And so then when we grow up, it's like they're very ingrained. It's like second nature to just, we think it's a part of ourselves. And there's no part of us that's shy. There's no part of us that's a brat or anything like that. It's just a memory, a story that we bring into each day.
Yeah, and then a set of behaviors that we feel like we have to fulfill. Like,
and again, because it's subconscious.
Right. And like little one of our daughters, she has some, she struggles with some anxiety, and she'll say like, I don't want to do that myself, or that's too scary, and I can't sleep in my room on my own, or different things. And I try not to reinforce that. I'll just say like, you will when you're ready. And she'll say like, oh, Mom, do you think like by next year I'll be able to go by myself? Because I've been being more brave lately, and I've been trying harder to go in the line by myself or to sleep in my room by myself. And I think maybe by next year I will be. What do you think? I think you certainly could be ready by next year. Maybe you could be ready by next week. Oh no, not next week. But that opens, then her wheels start turning, and maybe in a month, right? Like she shortens her time because I'm not telling her what she has to expect or telling her who she is. You're a person with anxiety, right? Like
Yeah.
not dismissing that she's experiencing those feelings, but
You're
also not labeling.
you're breathing life into new possibilities for her that
Right.
are not in alignment with the current way she's living and believing and acting and the story she's got telling. So yeah, that's a beautiful thing. I love hearing you say it that way because it is that simple. You know, paint
Yeah.
the possibility of an opportunity of a paint the possibility of a new possibility in someone's life, and just like open the door. Like, yeah, you could do it in a year, and to do that for our children, like that's beautiful.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be um,
Because you
that
can't force me to be
how you
brave.
are.
Like as much as I want to be like, of course you can sleep by yourself. Nothing bad's gonna happen to you.
Yeah. Just be brave, right? Like,
Just be.
did that help when we were kids and we were struggling, right? Like, oh, well, my mom told me to be brave. Now I'm brave. Like,
No,
no.
people resist it. Children resist. Is
Yeah.
it? We. Oh, but I'm not brave. No, no, I can be brave. No, 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 I'm not brave. Like then you create this conflict, and then they might be more ingrained into that negative narrative
Yeah.
about.
Because now they have to uphold.
Now they're proving it. I'm gonna prove it to you that I'm not brave.
Yeah. Yeah. I came across someone, like an influencer, and she was saying, I usually don't swear, but I kind of like swear sometimes, and I don't know if like on my, you know, lives and podcasts and whatever, if I should just be myself and sometimes let out a swear word and be authentic, or if I should avoid swearing altogether because it might offend someone else. And um, I was thinking about that, and I was thinking, she can be authentic. She could swear, and if she wanted to, she could cut that part of the podcast, right? Um, but also, if she gives herself the label of I'm a podcaster who swears, right? Um, I'm a Christian religious podcaster, but I swear sometimes, right? If that's her new identity, then she's gonna feel obligated to like throw in a swear word every now and then just to keep up that image, right? And I mean, I have no idea. I don't really know her. I was just passing, like seeing that in passing, and I was like, that's an interesting thing that we do as humans is we give ourselves a label and then we feel like we have to live up to that. And that can be used for good, right? I'm the kind of person who opens doors for people. I'm the kind of person who is patient. I'm the kind of person who gives compliments, right? But it can also be used in a negative way. I'm the kind of person who's shy. I'm the kind of person who's anxious. I'm the kind of person who's angry, etc. And so just being aware of our self talk, um, I think that can really affect how we respond. And responding with gratitude can shift things around and change things, like take the example of the guy cutting you off in traffic. You can be like, oh my gosh, I'm so angry. You can get frustrated, you can get rage, or you can be like, you know what, I'm grateful that he got to go first. Right? Like you could choose that, and that's probably not going to be our first response, but if we practiced that, it could be our first response. And I've met people who they are like that. They're the kind of person that you never hear any bad thing come out of their mouth. They're just always so kind, and you think, I could never be like that, but you could, right? With some practice and um, I mean, maybe that was a spiritual gift they were born with, but we can cultivate and grow any spiritual gift. So gratitude is something I feel like some of us have to work harder at than others.
There's a quick technical question, but can you see me?
Yes, I can.
Oh,
You
okay.
you went black a couple of times, but you're
Well,
back.
that was because on my end, I couldn't see myself. And so I was
Okay.
turning the camera on and off.
Okay. Yeah, I
Just,
can see
but
you.
so if you can see me fine, then
Yeah.
that's just on my end. So it's probably recording just fine then. And speaking of, we can just have this, we can develop what I feel like I'm my desire, and what my goal is to develop just this unreasonable gratitude for everything, be unreasonably grateful.
Right. Yeah, you don't have to have a reason to be grateful. You don't.
No, because we can make one up.
Right. And Jesus taught us, how important gratitude was. Like the 10 lepers, one returned, one said thank you. The rest, just went off and showed themselves to the priests. And Jesus didn't like curse them again with leprosy, right? He still let them be healed. And I'm sure he was happy that they were healed. But he points out to us how much more the man who returned and was grateful, like how much more he received from that experience. They were all healed, but some of them maybe not spiritually, like that one who was grateful, right?
Yeah, spiritually, the gift he received was way greater.
Yeah. Yes. Okay.
And the thing is, gratitude is meant to be given away, right? And when you give gratitude away, it like has a way of expanding and growing. And like the guy that gave me the money, it was his gratitude. I feel like I was 2 or 3 times as grateful after he gave me that that gift than he was grateful for me. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. It grows, it expands, and it allows us to
And that affected the rest of
carry
my day.
it
The rest of
forward. To carry it forward into the rest of our lives, right? Yeah, I was just listening to a speaker talk about his wife who had passed recently, and he said something to the effect of, like, she had a lot of stuff to do, she had a lot of duties and responsibilities, and yet never did any of us hear an unkind word come from her mouth. And I thought, well, I'll never be like that, because I've all of my family's already heard unkind things come out of my mouth, right? So almost this sense of like despair, like, oh, I could never measure up to that amazing woman. And then I was like, it doesn't matter. Like, if that helps me to be more kind and to curb my tongue and to speak more generously, then hey, for the next 40, 50, whatever years of my life, 60, I hope to live to be at least 100. For however many more years of my life, it doesn't matter if I was imperfect for the first 40 years. If the next 60 years I'm improving incrementally, that's all that matters. Like, it's not about what you have done, but about who you become. And if I can become someone better because of that story, like, well, then hallelujah. And that will affect all of my family. And so, yeah, I'm super grateful for any kind of stories or events that shake me and wake me up to what I can be and who I can become, because they are what changes us. And it's not like, oh, I heard that story and now I'm perfect, right? Like, no, but now I see things differently. And now I'm trying and striving for something different than I was before.
Now, one thing that I see as a next level gratitude skill is to be grateful for things, maybe things that you want to have or experience in your life, but you don't have them or haven't experienced them yet. And because here we've been learning about manifesting, and they talk about being grateful for something now as if you already had it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes. And when I have applied that, it comes so much faster and I feel it. And I am so much more grateful instead of, why hasn't that thing come? Is that ever even going to come? You know, like I've been praying for that. When I live in a way that, like, I prayed for it, I know it's coming, just wait for it. It is such a better way to live. And I notice all the good things and I notice when it comes. Sometimes we pray for something, it comes and we don't even notice.
And we're back. Now I'm inside. I gotta speak louder because now I'm on Kristi's microphone.
Yeah. Okay. So, a gratitude exercise that has really blessed and benefited my life over the years is just to. I did this yesterday. I was holding my little Adam, one of my twins, and he was just snuggling, and it was so sweet. And I just took a moment and set the intention, I want to remember this. I want to experience the joy and gratitude of this moment. And I just let that wash over me, and it just felt so intense, like the love that I felt for my little baby. And like I know he could feel it because he squeezed me a little tighter, and he was just like, you know, there, like, oh, I'm experiencing this like epic moment of love with my mom. And doing that 3 or 4 times throughout the day with different little experiences, you know, it could be like, I love walking to the post office and getting my mail. Like, I love seeing the nature and the fresh air, like whatever it is. Let that experience wash over you. It actually literally rewires neurons and pathways in your brain that allow you to be a more grateful person, to become a person that feels more joy and gratitude and happiness. And I think that's really important because we don't have enough of that in this world.
Yeah, I mean, I've done the gratitude journal thing for a few days, where you just try and list 100 things you're grateful for, and
Mm-hmm.
I guess because I think it's a skill, and I'm not very skilled at feeling gratitude when I'm trying to. It turned more into a chore of just trying to think of random things versus successfully like generating gratitude.
Right.
But it just comes down to what was the story I was telling myself, and it was really just like, well, I've got to write 100 things, and I was focusing on the thinking of 100 things versus being grateful for everything that I was just listing out. You know, like
Yeah. Yeah, and it can be like people can use gratitude in a negative way. Like, you should just be grateful for, you know, whatever. Like, you shouldn't complain because you should be grateful, as if our experience doesn't count because it's not as bad as someone else's, right? Like, and there's always the law of relativity. Something's always going to be worse than what we're experiencing, but that doesn't mean that we can't experience it and feel that, move through that, like we don't always have to just be grateful, right? Like it that's just another way of stuffing your feelings and not letting them out. And I think there have been times in my life where I've kind of lived that way, where I'm like, no, I should just be grateful. Like, my life isn't as bad as somebody else's, so I should just be grateful. But it doesn't actually move me into a better, higher vibration any quicker. Where you're just trying to find things you're grateful for, I think can be really kind of life altering, because you start to recognize like how deep you can feel, like the emotions. Like, I can feel joy so deeply when I'm aware of it, when I'm intentionally feeling it. I can feel sorrow. I can feel humiliation. I can feel, it doesn't matter what emotion, whether it's good or, not that there's emotions that are good or bad, but like a more positive or negative emotion, it's okay. The deeper you can feel on one end of the spectrum, the deeper you can feel on the other end. And so one thing I wanted to hit on is that, I kind of talked about sometimes holidays are not our favorite time of year. We get together, there's in-laws, there's siblings, there's parents, and, all the people we care about the most, and also our most difficult relationships, because anybody else we can just kind of cut out of our life. Who cares? I just have to tolerate my boss, right? I don't have to really, love my boss or whatever. But our family, we feel this, like, I can't just cut them out of my life. They're part of my life for a reason. God sent me to this family for a reason. And so I need to find a way to heal that relationship. And it can be just such a struggle and such a challenge. And yeah, holidays can be like the worst, but they can also be phenomenal. They can also be just beautiful if we learn to do a few things. And I feel like one of the things that has helped me have better experiences when I'm at a family or social gathering and I'm feeling judged, unloved, unwanted, disliked, whatever it is, like those sort of negative emotions. I have set this intention that I am going to just exude love. It doesn't matter what they think. They can be really angry at me. They can think I am all the negative things they want. But I am coming to the table with love and compassion, and I am choosing to set aside judgment. And they feel that. And I've had that experience where I think, oh, they feel this way about me, whatever. But I come to the table with a different intention, that I'm going to forego judgment, that I'm going to, compliment and love. And we have a great time. And, we think, wow, that was fun. Like, that wasn't so bad. Like, we got together as a family and it was a pretty good time. And I've even had, family members and others say, like, to other people, like, wow, that was like a different experience. Like, she was nicer to me, or, like, what's up with her? And it's hard, especially if, we have this intention. Okay, I'm going to just be loving. I'm going to not judge anybody. I'm going to go in and it's going to be great. And we get in and the first thing they say is like, you're late, or some snide remark. And we're like, we have a choice in that second, in that moment, to continue with our intention or to throw it to the wind and be like, oh, forget this. See, it's impossible. They're just a jerk, right? And it's difficult, but it's doable. And when we say no, Doesn't matter what they bring. This is what I'm bringing. And I can just smile and like, oh, yeah, here I am. Whatever. Completely ignore their comment if you need to, but or apologize. I am so sorry. I'm late. That was on me. I'm sorry. Right? Without making excuses. Well, the traffic was bad or whatever it is, right? Like just, I'm really sorry I was late. I'll try better next time. It takes them off guard, right? Wait, hang on. Because they're on the defense because they think you are going to be offensive or defensive. And when you show that, hey, I'm not going to defend myself and I'm not going to offend you, suddenly they're just like, I don't know how to respond because I don't feel a need to defend myself right now. And I was discussing this with a client, and she said that a lot of people were complaining to her. She's in a position of authority, and they're telling her, "You're lousy at this. You're not doing this right. You know, your organization is just all these things." And she's giving it like her all, and she's feeling so frustrated. Like nobody cares and appreciates what I do, and I just had this like thought, I guess it from the spirit, intuition, whatever you want to call it, but I felt like it was revelation that next time somebody says that, like, I have a bone to pick with you, you're doing all these things wrong, rather than defend yourself, rather than, you know, stand up for yourself or whatever, you can just pause and say, I just want to thank you for what you've done in this organization. I appreciate you so much. You and, you know, the others like you really help us do our job better. I'm really sorry if you've been upset or offended, or if I did something to hurt you. How can I make it better? Like, whoa, like they don't know what to do. They're gonna probably backpedal and be like, you know, I appreciate what you do too. You know, you're doing your best, right? Like, because they don't feel a need to attack you anymore because you just took away all their defenses, right? You just took down your shield, all your armor. You are unarmed, and they're like, well, I can't hurt an unarmed man. Like, that wouldn't be appropriate. And it opens your heart, opens their heart, and puts you on level ground. And they no longer feel like they have to pull you down from some pedestal that they've imagined you're on or whatever it is. And it just makes you more grateful for them, less irked and irritated and frustrated for all of their complaints and whatever. And it allows them to have a different view of you. And it really models exceptional leadership. Because good leaders, they don't defend themselves, they don't get on their high horse, and you don't know how much work I put into this, right? They're just like, okay, how can I make your experience better? So, yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
Just a couple of tips that you can use for your holiday family get-togethers. Like if you know, boy, this is going to be one of those tough times, but I'm going to do my best, and we're just going to see what we can do here at our, you know, family event, etc. Try one of those, see what happens. Like, whoa, that was so much better than what I expected. And just, you know, kind of letting go of this need to defend yourself, to be right. Who cares? Right, wrong. There's no right and wrong. You're just family, and yeah, it doesn't really matter. So in the end, oh, what's that quote? Never let a problem to be solved become more important than a person to be loved. And when we're at family get-togethers, aren't we there so that we can share love with each other as a family? And maybe you think, well, I don't care about my stupid brother-in-law or my sister. She's just a jerk or whatever it is. But you care about your mom and your dad. And are they going to have a good time if you two are fighting, right? Probably not so much. So, yeah, just some holiday tips to lessen the challenge and difficulty in your family get-togethers. Okay, so I'm just adding a little bit of teal to this turkey feather here.
Beautiful feather.
Thanks. Simple but fun. Just adding, yeah, just a little bit. I think that when we are intentional about our get-togethers and take time to say, you know, I'm going to make sure I compliment each one of my grandkids, or I'm going to be sure to thank whoever cooked the food, or I'm going to ask so-and-so about his business, or whatever it is. If we're intentional, we feel better. They feel better. Hey, someone cares about me. Someone asked me about myself. Somebody showed love or gave me a compliment. And we have a better experience because we were intentional about it. So that is something I would recommend doing. When I have done that, it has been a much better experience for me. I was a youth counselor at a summer camp, and I had been to that summer camp as a youth, and I always enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. But when I was there as a counselor, I had a different perspective, and I had a different intention. And my intention was no longer, you know, I want to have fun. How great can this camp be for me? My intention was, I want to make sure all of the youth I'm in charge of have a really good time. And my experience was so much better. It was way more enjoyable than when I was there as a youth, because I had a purpose and an intention, and it wasn't how much fun can I have and who's going to notice me and who's going to talk to me and is anybody going to be my friend. I was seeking to make sure everybody felt included, everyone felt cared about, everyone felt loved. And in so doing, I felt good. I felt loved. The kids were like, oh, you're such a great counselor, because I was showing them love and attention. And so just setting that intention to show gratitude, to express it and show love, I think can make your family events a success. And yeah, I invite you to try that. I am almost done with the grateful word. Any other thoughts or comments about gratitude?
I'm grateful for this opportunity to do this podcast. It's a learning experience. I mean, we're having a technical difficulty with my device, and that's throwing me off. That's why I haven't said much. But no, I mean, this next upcoming year, I look forward to, as Kristi said, being more intentional about being grateful, about sharing gratitude. And experiencing the difference that it will make in my life, and making a difference in the lives of those I share it with.
Yeah, it absolutely will. Just being intentional about experiencing your own emotions, and then being intentional about how you get to help others experience emotions. You can't control other people's experiences, right? Like, think about people who tried to control Jesus's emotions, right? They tried to speed him up. Hurry, Jesus, my daughter's dying. He couldn't be hurried. I'm coming, but first I'm going to take care of this woman who has had an issue of blood for 12 years. Hurry, Jesus, my brother's dying. I'm coming to Bethany, but first I'm going to take care of some other important things. And then, Jesus, if you would have been here, my brother wouldn't have died, right? Like, people tried to tell him how he should be living his life, what he should be doing, and like what kind of emotions and stuff he should be experiencing, and yet he did not allow himself to get caught up in that. He didn't allow himself to rush, to hurry, to do anything other than what he felt he was supposed to do. And I think, wow, if I could live like that, if I could allow myself to not react and respond when people tell me, you should be like this and you should be doing that. Why weren't you here? If you would have been here, this wouldn't have happened. All of that. And just, I'm really sorry. And, you know, he wept with them. And he didn't say like, I'm going to raise him from the dead, guys. Like, calm down, right? He felt compassion and sorrow, and he cried with them. And then he raised him from the dead, and he still allowed them to experience all of their emotions. He didn't tell them how they should feel. You shouldn't be sad. He's going to be fine, right? He let them experience what they were experiencing. And I think we do that a lot with our kids. Like, don't be sad. Don't be afraid. Don't be scared. Don't be whatever. Like, don't be ungrateful. Instead of just letting them experience their emotions, modeling for them appropriate emotions and skills. I'm just adding a little gold here. Like the Savior did, it allows them to self-regulate and figure out, okay, so that's a choice I get to make instead of I have to comply to what someone expects of me, right? Sorry, that's probably kind of an annoying noise there, but just giving it some little gold embellishments.
Never seen one turkey feather, so is that what they really look like?
Not exactly. This is, me adding some creative license, but they are similar.
Like with the black and...
Yeah, well, it's not black. It's hard. It's a dark brown. Probably looks black in the video, but I'll post a picture. You'll see it's a dark brown, and it's just usually some browns and reds. I don't know that there's like blue, but I know a lot of birds have a little bit of blue in them, and I just felt like adding something pretty, so there we go.
So it's a creative license take on a turkey feather. That's all right.
Yeah. I mean, because
I was just like, I guess I'd seen turkey feathers in pictures, but I just wasn't connecting it. Now that you shaded the black is brown.
Yeah. I just feel like it would be kind of boring to do like just your regular old turkey feather. Like, how fun is that? Not that fun. Not that exciting. So, yeah. Anyway, thank you for joining us. Thank you for witnessing our emotions and our experiences of gratitude. And I hope that you can experience many more events with gratitude in your heart. And if anything that we said and you tried made a difference, let me know, because I love to hear feedback. So thank you, and happy Thanksgiving, everybody.